Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Tarkir Dragonstorm is here and it is absolutely amazing. This is one of the best sets we have seen come out in recent memory, and it really hits on all levels. It has great cards, mechanics, flavor, story, and art. We got our hands on the new Commander decks from the set, and they are very fun. And while we do love a good precon, we simply cannot help but to crank these decks up to 11. And that's exactly what we did tonight. Each player took a precon and created a bracket 4 deck. That means no restrictions or limitations. We wanted to make them as powerful and as fun as possible. A big thank you to Wizards of the Coast for partnering with us for this video. If you want to check out Tarkir Dragonstorm and pick up some of these decks, be sure to check out the links in the description below. Tonight's Fighters Showcase is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Make sure to check out their latest Sparkle matte sleeves, Amethyst and Amber. Also, be sure to check out the new art sleeves and playmat called The Fallen by Japanese artist Ryo Kamei, all available right now. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Ryan piloting Teval, the Balanced Scale. This deck seeks to leverage graveyard synergies along with its commander to generate lots of zombies. It then wins with Empty the Laboratory, fetching up a 3-card zombie combo onto the battlefield. It can also win through loops with the Gitrog monster or through a large Finale of Devastation. Next, we have Mike piloting Ureni of the Unwritten. This deck seeks to generate infinite mana through cards like Food Chain or Hullbreaker Horror. It then casts its commander over and over to assemble a dragon combo or burn out the table with Terror of the Peaks. After that, we have Cal piloting Zurgo Stormrender. This deck leans heavily into token creation to put pressure on opponents' life totals. It then uses its commander for card advantage or to combo off with sacrifice outlets to drain the table. It can also win through classic Mardu win cons including Dualcaster Twin Flame or Warren Soul Trader. Finally, we have Zeb piloting Shiko and Narset unified. This deck leans heavy into tempo and storm. It leverages its commander to get huge bursts of advantage through copying high-value spells like Jeska's Will. It then ends the game with on-flavor storm cards like Dragonstorm or Stormscale Scion. This video is made possible by all of our sponsors and viewers like you on Patreon. Want to support us? Check out the links below or help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and commenting about your favorite dragon from the new set. Without further ado, let's kick off this dry, drowsy, dreamy, dreadful dragon drama. Ryan had the most dragons in his magic collection and gets to start us off. But Cal and Zeb have pre-game actions. Cal puts a Gemstone Caverns onto the battlefield, exiling Stadium Headliner. Zeb also puts a Gemstone Caverns onto the battlefield, exiling Exotic Orchard. Ryan draws a card for turn and plays a City of Brass. He casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting Noxious Revival. He taps City of Brass to help cast a Felwar Stone. Ryan passes. Mike draws and also plays a City of Brass. He taps it to help cast a Soul Ring. He passes the turn. Cal draws and plays a Command Tower. He casts Anok Strike Leader. Cal ends his turn. Zeb draws and plays a Command Tower. He casts an Esper Sentinel. He casts a Mana Vault. Zeb ships the turn. Ryan draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts a Rhystic Study. Esper triggers, and Ryan taps City of Brass to pay for it. In response, Mike casts Force of Negation for its alternate cost, exiling a blue card. Esper triggers, and Mike pays. Force counters and exiles Rhystic Study, and Ryan, a bit disappointed, ends his turn. Mike draws and taps City of Brass to cast Gamble. Esper triggers and Zeb draws. Then Mike fetches up a card into his hand and randomly discards a Guy's Cradle, which is what he tutored for. He plays a very sad Gemstone Caverns for turn. He pays 2 life to help cast Phyrexian Metamorph. It enters as a copy of Esper Sentinel. All through, Mike passes. Cal draws and plays a Shattered Sanctum. He casts his commander, Zurgo Stormrender. He moves to combat and attacks Zeb with Anok Strike Leader. It triggers and Cal creates 3 goblins tapped and attacking each opponent. They all take it and Cal passes the turn. Zeb draws and plays an Otawara Soaring City as his land for turn. He casts Joriun Ruin Driver. Zeb ships the turn. Ryan draws and plays a Mana Confluence. He taps City Brass to help cast his commander, Teval, the Balanced Scale. Ryan passes the turn to Mike. Mike draws, takes no actions, and passes. Cal draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Plateau onto the battlefield. He casts Lightning Greaves. Both Espers trigger, and Mike and Zeb draw. He casts Selfless Spirit. He activates Lightning Greaves, attaching it to Selfless Spirit. He moves to combat and attacks Mike with Zurgo and Anok Strike Leader, and Ryan with 3 goblins. Strike Leader and Zurgo trigger, and Cal creates a warrior tapped and attacking Zeb, and 3 goblins tapped and attacking each opponent. Zeb blocks a goblin with Joriun and everyone takes the rest. A goblin dies, Zurgo triggers, and Cal draws a card. In his second main phase, Cal activates Lightning Greaves, attaching it to Zurgo. Cal moves to his end step and sacrifices his warrior. Zurgo triggers and each opponent loses a life. The turn moves to Zeb. Zeb draws and casts Seething Song, paying the Esper tax. He adds 5 red. He casts Galazeth Prismari. Jori triggers and Zeb draws a card. Galazeth enters and Zeb creates a treasure. Zeb gives the turn to Ryan. Ryan draws and moves to combat. He attacks Cal with Teval. Teval triggers, Ryan mills 3, returning Bayou from his graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Teval triggers again and Ryan creates a zombie. Then Cal takes it and Ryan passes. Mike draws and taps City of Brass to cast Llanowar Elves. He passes the turn. Cal draws and plays a Scrubland. He casts Mardu Siegebreaker. It enters and Cal exiles Selfless Spirit. Cal moves to combat and attacks Ryan with Mardu Siegebreaker and Zurgo, and Zeb with 5 goblins. Enoch Strike Leader, Zurgo, and Siegebreaker all trigger. Cal creates 3 Selfless Spirits tapped and attacking each opponent, a Warrior tapped and attacking Zeb, and 3 Goblins tapped and attacking each opponent. Zeb blocks a Selfless Spirit and a Goblin, and Ryan blocks Siegebreaker. Then they all take it, the Zombie, Goblin, and Selfless Spirit die, and Zurgo triggers twice. Cal draws 2 cards, and at the end of combat, Cal activates both Selfless Spirits, sacrificing them both. Zurgo triggers 2 more times, and Cal draws 2 more cards. Cal moves to his end step and sacrifices his warrior. Zurgo triggers and each opponent loses a life. The turn moves to Zeb. During his draw step, Zeb takes a damage through his mana ball. In his main phase, he plays a Windswept Teeth for turn. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a plateau onto the battlefield. He casts his commander, Shiko and Narset, unified. Now, Zeb knows that Cal is running away with the game, so he needs help from the rest of the table. So he casts Pyroblast targeting Enoch Strike Leader. Shiko and Narset, Joriun, and Esper trigger. Mike draws, then Zeb draws, and copies Pyroblast targeting Enoch again. Both resolve, but do not destroy Strike Leader because they are not blue. Zeb passes. Ryan draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. He moves to combat and attacks Cal with Teval. Teval triggers and Ryan mills 3. Then Cal takes it, and in his second main phase, Ryan cracks Bloodstained Mire, pays a life, and fetches up an Overgrown Tomb onto the battlefield untapped, paying 2 life. He taps City of Brass and Mana Confluence to cast a Finale of Devastation where X equals 5. Both Espers trigger and Mike and Zeb draw. Then Ryan fetches up a Teval, Arbiter of Virtue, onto the battlefield. Ryan passes the turn. Mike draws and taps City of Brass to help cast Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. He casts a Lotus Petal. Esper triggers and Zeb draws. He cracks Petal for 2 red through Kinnan to help cast Cavern Horde Dragon. He moves to combat and attacks Zeb with Cavern Horde Dragon. Zeb takes it, Dragon triggers, and Mike creates 3 treasures. Mike gives the turn to Cal. Cal draws and plays a Swamp. He casts War and Soul Trader. In response, Mike casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling a blue card. Esper triggers and Zeb draws. Then Force counters Soul Trader. He moves to combat, and in response, Mike invokes Court of Calling where X equals 2. He fetches up a Gilded Drake onto the battlefield. Drake enters and exchanges control of Mardu Siegebreaker. Then Cal attacks Mike with Strike Leader and Zeb with 4 goblins. Strike Leader triggers and Cal creates 3 goblins tapped and attacking each opponent. Zeb blocks 3 goblins, Ryan blocks a goblin with Teval, and Mike blocks with Mardu Siegebreaker. Then damage happens, 4 goblins and Strike Leader die, Ryan gains 6 life through Teval, and Zeb and Mike take the rest. Zurgo triggers 4 times and Cal draws 4 cards. In his second main phase, Cal casts Mox Diamond, paying for both Espers. It resolves and Cal discards a City of Brass. He casts Molten Duplication, targeting Gilded Drake. It resolves and Cal creates a copy of Gilded Drake. Drake enters and Cal exchanges control of Mardu Siegebreaker. Cal passes and Mike sacrifices his Gilded Drake token. During his draw step, Zeb takes a damage to his mana ball. In his main phase, he casts Rite of Flame. Esper triggers and Mike draws. In response, Mike casts Pyroblast, targeting Shiko and Narset, paying the Esper tax. In response, Zeb casts Fierce Guardianship for its alternate cost, targeting Pyroblast. Shiko and Narset and Joriun trigger, Zeb draws, then copies Fierce. Pyroblast is countered, then Rite of Flame resolves. Zeb adds 2 red. He casts Stormkill and Artist. He moves to combat and attacks Cal with Shiko and Narset. Cal takes it, and Zeb ships the turn to Ryan. Ryan draws and moves to combat. He attacks Cal with Teval the Balanced Scale and Mike with Teval Arbiter of Virtue. Teval triggers, Ryan mills 3, and returns Bloodstained Mire from his graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Teval triggers again, and Ryan creates a zombie. Then they both take it, and Ryan gains 6 life. In his second main phase, Ryan delves a card to help cast Sylvan Library, paying for both Espers. Both Teval's trigger, he loses 2 life and creates a zombie. Library resolves, and Ryan gives the turn to Mike. Mike draws and moves to combat. He attacks Ryan with Cavern Horde Dragon. Ryan takes it, Dragon triggers, and Mike creates 2 treasures. In his second main phase, Mike casts his commander, Ureni of the Unwritten. It enters, Mike looks at the top 8, failing to find. He plays a Breeding Pool into play tapped. Mike passes the turn. Cal draws and plays an Exotic Orchard. He casts Caesar, Legion's Emperor. He moves to combat and attacks Ryan with Mardu Siegebreaker, Gilded Drake, and Zurgo Stormrender. Caesar, Zurgo, and Siegebreaker all trigger. Cal creates 3 Selfless Spirits tapped and attacking each opponent, a Warrior tapped and attacking Ryan, then sacrifices the Goblin to Caesar. He creates 2 soldiers tapped and attacking Zeb, then hits Ryan for 11 damage through Caesar. Zeb blocks both citizens and blocks Selfless Spirit with Galazeth, Ryan blocks Siegebreaker and Zurgo with his zombies, and Mike blocks Selfless Spirit with Ureni. Before damage, Cal sacrifices 2 Selfless Spirits to give his creatures indestructible until the end of turn. Zurgo triggers twice and Cal draws 2 cards. Then Ryan takes it, and before the end of combat, Cal sacrifices his other Selfless Spirit to draw again through Zurgo. He moves to his end step and sacrifices a Warrior. Zurgo triggers and each opponent loses a life. Cal passes, discarding to hand size. During his draw step, Zeb takes a damage to his mana vault. In his main phase, he casts Finale of Promise where X equals 3, targeting Seething Song and Rite of Flame in his graveyard. Stormkill and Esper trigger, Mike draws, and in response, Cal casts Deadly Relic for its alternate cost, targeting Shiko and Narset. Both Espers trigger, Mike draws, and Cal pays for Zeb's. Shiko and Narset is exiled, then Stormkill resolves. Zeb creates a treasure, then Finale resolves. Zeb casts both Rite of Flame and Seething Song from his graveyard. Stormkill triggers twice and Joriun triggers. Zeb draws, then creates 2 more treasures. Then Zeb adds 5 red, and then adds 2 more red. He casts Burgi, God of Storytelling. He casts Atsushi, the Blazing Sky. Burgi triggers and he adds a red. He casts Mockingbird, where X equals 1. It enters as a copy of Gilded Drake. Drake enters and Zeb exchanges control of Mike's Kinnan. The table argues that he should kill Ryan with Stormkill, but he negotiates that it's better to keep Ryan alive so that they have everything necessary to kill Cal before his turn. The table agrees and Zeb passes to Ryan. During his draw step, Ryan draws 2 extra through Sylvan Library, putting 2 back on top. He moves to combat and attacks Cal with both Tevals. Teval triggers, Ryan mills 3, returning Mistrized Village from his graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Teval triggers again and he creates a zombie. Then Cal takes it and Ryan gains 6 life. In his second main phase, he delves away a card to help cast Zulaport Cutthroat. Both Tevals trigger, Ryan loses 2 life and then creates a zombie. He casts Empty the Laboratory, where X equals 2, delving away 2 cards. Both Tevals and 2 Espers trigger, Mike and Zeb draw, then Ryan loses 4 life and creates another zombie. In response, Zeb casts Swan Song, targeting Laboratory. Burgi, Stormkill, and Mike's Esper triggers, and in response, Ryan taps City of Brass to cast an Offer You Can't Refuse, targeting Swan Song. Teval triggers, and Ryan loses a life. In response, Zeb casts Dispel, targeting Offer. Burgi, Stormkill, and Joriun all trigger. Zeb draws, creates a treasure, then adds a red. With no other actions, Dispel counters Offer, Mike draws, Zeb creates a treasure, adds a red through Burgi, then Swansong counters Empty the Laboratory, and Ryan creates a 2/2 bird. Ryan passes. At the end of Ryan's turn, Zeb cracks treasures and uses his floating Burgi mana to help activate Kinnan. He looks at the top 5, putting Stormscale Scion onto the battlefield. The turn moves to Mike. Mike draws and moves to combat. He attacks Zeb with Ureni. Zeb blocks with Atsushi and Stormscale Scion. Atsushi and Ureni die, and Atsushi triggers. Zeb creates 3 treasures, and in his second main phase, Mike plays an Exotic Orchard for turn. He casts Grim Monolith. Esper triggers and Zeb draws. Mike taps City of Brass to help recast his commander, Ureni. It enters, Mike looks at the top 8, putting Terror of the Peaks onto the battlefield. Finished up, Mike passes the turn. Cal draws and plays a Swamp. He moves to combat and attacks Ryan with Caesar, Mardu Siegebreaker, Zurgo, and both citizens, and Zeb with 4 goblins. Caesar, Siegebreaker, and Zurgo all trigger. Cal creates a warrior tapped and attacking Zeb, creates 3 selfless spirits attacking each opponent, then sacrifices an untapped goblin to Caesar. Zurgo triggers and each opponent loses 1. In response to the Caesar trigger, Zeb casts Filter Out. Burgi, Stormkill, and Mike's Esper trigger. Mike draws, then Zeb creates a treasure and adds a red. Then Zeb cracks his treasures, floating mana. Then Filter Out resolves, bouncing all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Before blocks, Zeb uses his floating mana to help activate Kinnan, looking at the top 5, failing to find. Then Caesar's ability resolves, Cal creates 2 citizens tapped and attacking Zeb, then deals 12 damage to Mike, killing him. Then Zeb blocks all the tokens, and Ryan blocks all attacking creatures except Selfless Spirit. Then Cal's Selfless Spirit and 7 tokens die, Zeb's Esper Sentinel dies, and all of Ryan's creatures die. Zurgo triggers 8 times, and Ryan's Zulaport Cutthroat triggers 5 times. Each opponent loses 5, and Ryan gains 5, and Cal draws 8 cards. In his second main phase, Cal casts Ram's Expertise. He creates 3 servos and casts Imperial Recruiter for free. Recruiter enters, and Cal fetches up a Viscera Seer into his hand. He casts Viscera Seer. He activates Viscera Seer, sacrificing a creature. Zurgo triggers, and each opponent loses 1. Cal then sacrifices the rest of his creatures, draining the table through Zurgo until his opponents are dead, and Cal wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what an absolutely fantastic game. These decks were so much fun to play. There are a lot of great synergies in the decks themselves, and they were very well built. Even when brewing them for Bracket 4, each player ended up putting a number of new cards from the set into their decks. This was because so many cards were very powerful or synergistic to the overall strategy. It was also refreshing to see combat as a viable strategy in the higher brackets. Too often, brackets 4 and 5 ending up leaning so hard into combo. Combat being a valid strategy with these new cards made for an awesome game this evening. The most valuable card in tonight's game, sponsored by Luxury Playstyle, goes to Zurgo Stormbreaker. This card kept Cal's hand full, kept his strategy in motion, and was used as the final way to end the game. There was so much goodness stapled to this card, and we absolutely loved it. If you want to play with the treasures or zombies seen in tonight's game, be sure to check out Luxury Playstyle. Links are in the description. A big thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for allowing us to get our hands on this set. Be sure to check out the description for more info on how to pick up these decks today. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.